Hello, I'm James Jack, the head of the Business Owners Client segment for UBS Wealth Management USA, and welcome to another episode of Founders and Funders, our conversation series with women entrepreneurs focusing on how they built, exited, and supported successful businesses. To catch all the episodes, please subscribe to the Founders and Funders playlist on UBS's YouTube channel so you can keep up to date on all of the episodes in the series. Leading this month's Founders and Funders UBS conversation is Claire Tucker. Claire joins us from UBS Asset Management, where she's the head of trading and fixed income relative value investments for UBS Hedge Fund Solutions. Claire has also led UBS's research into women-run hedge funds strategies for the last 3 years. So I'm really excited to have her lead the conversation with Rebecca Pacholder, the founder, CEO, and portfolio manager of Snowcat Capital, which Rebecca launched in 2019. Claire, I'm looking forward to hearing more about the growth of women's entrepreneurship in the portfolio manager space. So I'll turn it over to you to tell us more and lead this month's conversation with Rebecca.
Thanks, James. At UBS Hedge Fund Solutions, we're aiming to help increase the representation of women as hedge fund portfolio managers over time by proactively sourcing high-quality female investment talent. Our lens is women-run hedge fund strategies, as the idea is that focusing on the key investment decision maker helps to support the talent pipeline from earlier on, and so more women can become the hedge fund firm founders of the future. Today on Founders and Funders, I'm excited to introduce our special guest, a hedge fund founder herself, Rebecca Pacholder. Rebecca founded Snowcat Capital in 2019. She has 20 years of relevant work experience investing in high yield and distressed debt. Most recently, she was a portfolio manager and partner at Meager Advisors from May 12 through December 18. From 2010 to 2012, she was a senior analyst at Anchorage Capital Group. Previously, Rebecca was a partner at Sandel Asset Management, where she specialized in high yield and distressed debt investments. Rebecca began her career as a corporate attorney at Baker Botts in Houston. Rebecca received her BA in politics from Princeton University and her JD from the University of Texas, where she graduated with honors. Rebecca is also a CFA charter holder. Rebecca, hello and welcome to
Hi.
Founders and Funders.
Hi, thank you for having me so much.
It's great to be with you again, and I'm so excited to shine a light on a budding area of entrepreneurship for women, which is women like you who are both starting and managing their own funds. Thank you for agreeing to talk about your entrepreneurial journey.
Thank you for having me and for listening, for doing this with others too. It's great. It's a wonderful thing you guys are doing. So thank you.
Awesome. It's great to have you on the program. So Rebecca, you started Snowcat after serving as a portfolio manager for several years at Omega. Can you talk us through a little bit what it was like to decide that it was the right time to go and build your own firm?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I was at the right point in my career. I had been running capital on a discretionary basis for a little less than 7 years. And I experienced what it was like to have complete independence and creative freedom. My boss at the time, Lee, was very supportive of me making decisions. He didn't second guess the trades that I was in. He let me play through complex situations and give them the time that they needed to work out. And so when the firm decided to switch from a hedge fund into a family office, I knew for me that the experience that I'd had was something that I wanted to recreate. But truthfully, it's very hard to recreate the experience I had at Omega unless it's your own fund. So for me, having been in that seat for 7 years and realizing that as an investor, that's the kind of environment that I wanted to invest in, I knew the only way to continue on that path was to start my own firm. So that was really the starting place for the decision to start the fund.
Got it. Thank you. And it makes a lot of sense. So today we're going to mainly stay away from your investing approach and markets in general and stick to talking about your entrepreneurial journey. But to help give us a little bit more context, would you mind just giving us a little bit about your approach at Snowcat?
Sure. So what we do is we're a credit opportunity fund, but we focus on what I would call bespoke financings, creative capital solutions. So that's really where we spend most of our time. We do a whole bunch of different credit products, but that tends to be where I spend most of my time and ultimately where I feel like we have the most of an edge. My background as a lawyer is obviously super relevant into why that is such a core part of what we do.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much for that background. So putting yourself in the shoes of our audience, either entrepreneurs or those who are thinking about starting their own company, about who are thinking about making the jump, what have been some of your key learnings about starting your business that others could potentially find useful?
Yes. So I guess I always think about this as if I could talk back to myself from 3 years ago, what would I tell myself? I think part of it would be maybe don't do it, but no, I'm just all joking aside. What I would say is that one thing that I thought was pretty illustrative is I was at a dinner right before I started Snowcat, and it was all founders, hedge fund founders. And everyone went down the room, around the room, and the exercise was to provide an adjective to describe who you were and why you were going to be successful as a manager. And I heard a lot of words like creative, not consensus, things around investing. And it came to me, and the adjective I chose was tenacious. And I think the reality is the only way to start a business, whether it's a hedge fund or any business in the world, whether you're a woman or not, is to have a commitment and a willingness to stick with it and be tenacious. Because it's ultimately that's what makes the biggest difference in terms of getting from an idea on paper to something that's actually an implementation. I think the other thing is that it's absolutely not a solo journey at all. For me, having the support of my family was incredibly important. Somebody that was in my corner, if you will, that was supportive and would help me during the early days that were so challenging. And other than having that, the other thing I'd say is I think people do need partners. What that is depends on the individual and the firm that they're in. For me, it was a capital partner in the form of a seed fund, 2 seed investors, and then some other really early supporters on the investing side. And those things all came together, and it was still incredibly miserable and hard. And I won't underestimate that. I have a newfound respect and camaraderie with anyone that's gone through it. But I think those are the things that have allowed us to get to the place that we are at today. And so I think ultimately it's what you want to do personally and your willingness to put in the time and effort and a little bit of suffering, to be quite fair. But I think there's other elements of it as well, which is the support system and the partnership that is so critical in the early days.
Great, thank you for that. And so it sounds like a lot about resiliency and determination, with keeping that end goal in sight and making sure you have the right partners.
Yes.
So you mentioned some of the partners on the seed side. I think on this program we talk a lot about how women are underrepresented in entrepreneurship and receive only a very small percent of venture backing. There is a lot of similarities for female portfolio managers with less than 10% of assets under private management managed by women. You've had some early success in raising assets, and how have you approached that?
It's interesting. There's an element of luck and people that were in the beginning. I remember my first conversation with the team at Goldman, where they sort of pulled me aside and they said, "Look, this is possible." So that early support and that belief is critical. But I agree with you in terms of the number of women or people that have a diverse background and whatever that happens to be is shockingly small, disappointingly small, I guess is what I'd say. One thing that I would notice now that we're 2 years in and I look back, there was a significant percentage of the early financial backers that were women for us. A lot of the CIOs that were early supporters, including in my seed investors, were women or are women. And I think the solution is not just on the side of the entrepreneurs, but I think it's the community in which they interact, that the more people in senior positions and authority that are from whatever diverse backgrounds are relevant, and all are relevant, the more likely it is for a person like me to succeed. Because ultimately, it's a decision to trust someone and take a risk. And human nature is that you're more likely to trust someone and take a risk if the person across the table looks just like you or has a background that's similar to you. It's a shortcut on trust. And so I think ultimately for me, that was 100% a precondition to our success, is having people that felt like they wanted to support what we were doing, not just in terms of our investment strategy, but in terms of the business that we were trying to create.
Got it. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. So more diversity in at all levels and in all roles in the industry, certainly helpful. And I guess this is sort of a related question. Obviously, post pandemic, coming out of the almost 2 years now of the pandemic, There are obviously some themes that have come out of that, including, more focus on sustainability, impact, and diversity. And we're seeing that on both sides of the table, both in investing and in entrepreneurship. So how might women entrepreneurs be able to seize the moment and capitalize on some of those themes?
Well, I think for me, there was a desire to be supportive of a diverse manager, or I should say, a woman manager. And I think that was an experience that wasn't unique to me. I don't think I'm special in any way in terms of the support that I received. So I'd say if there are other people that are in a similar place though I was 2 years ago, which is professionally, you feel like it's the right place in your career, you feel like you have a right support system at home or whatever, wherever that comes from, and that you have some early financial backers. I would say now is as good a time as I've ever seen in my career. And I'm very comfortable in saying that if I was in the same place in 2019, 10 years earlier, I would not have been successful. So there's a massive tailwind that I think is absolutely incredible. I mean, just what you're doing here today, Claire, is a perfect example of that. And there is a widespread version of what UBS is doing. And I think it's a great time to go out. I also think that if entrepreneurials start something and it doesn't work out, it's not as though it's a fatal decision. It's a risk that sometimes it doesn't work out, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it works out, and it's different than what you originally thought. I don't think I'm on my 2-year business plan where I thought I was, but I think that that's the biggest thing, is to know, I guess, in summary, there is a support system, there is a desire to help new managers get started, especially if they have a slightly different background from the conventional background. And in the end, take the risk. And if it doesn't work out, it's not as though life as one knows it will be so dissimilar afterwards. There are tons of people that have tried and maybe not ended up exactly where they wanted to be. So I guess in summary, I'd say go for it.
Awesome. And so now is really a great time.
Yes.
That's wonderful to hear. So let's bring it a bit more back to the personal side. I guess, you're 2 years in, but legacy is an important topic. Our clients think about it, but for many entrepreneurs, it might not be top of mind while you're in the middle of everything. So looking towards the future, what's the legacy you want to leave for your business, and how might you be working towards that now?
Sure. I mean, I think it's a little early for us to talk about legacy. I mean, we're a $700 million fund. I think it's a bit presumptive to talk about legacy. I would say more what I think about is sort of true north for us in terms of how we run things and what is our focus. And I think above all else, we think of ourselves as fiduciaries for LPs. That's it, full stop. And we want to make sure our LPs know and feel comfortable that at any given moment, at every given time, we are working for them and we're focused on their interests. So I think that is the most obvious statement. I think beyond that, I mean, I think Wall Street it's a tough environment. It's a blood sport, I think somebody once said, and I think that's true. And it is often a zero-sum game. And so those two phenomenons create a lot of friction around human interaction. So I'd say we acknowledge that, but what we try to do is be a fair partner, be a good partner, and be a transparent partner when we're dealing with everybody from me trading with the sell side, or with us dealing with other buy side investors, or with us dealing with corporate counterparties. So I think for us, it's not really necessarily a legacy question. It's just a question of how we want to do business and how we want to be part of the world at large as members of Snowcat.
Got it. So what kind of business you want to be
Yeah.
in general today and in the future?
And what our mission is.
Awesome.
And what our
Exactly.
mission is.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so last question. Rebecca, our viewers are building successful businesses and considering their next chapters. How can they be intentional about supporting the next generation of women entrepreneurs and fund managers?
Yeah, I would say that's a great question, because when I was coming through the industry, I just didn't see a lot of women. I didn't have women mentors. I didn't have women bosses. And I mean, I had some just terrific people I worked for, in fact, many terrific people. So it's a sort of a strange feeling to now be a person who has two women working for her, which is just wonderful. So I think it's the most basic levels. I think it is about, with at least the people I work with, taking a minute to explain and to teach in a way that I think I learned a lot by trial by fire, and to help other people not have to go through that as much. I think that's the basic level on a personal level, to try to support other women as they're trying to get started, whether that's in providing a business contact or an introduction, or helping somebody think through an idea, whatever it happens to be present and available. And then I think overall, what we're doing here and what we do as an individual level, I think is things that women and other people can do more generally. I know when I first started in the industry, I started this women's poker group for women to sort of get to know each other and play poker. I mean, there was a lot of talking, not a lot of poker playing, honestly, but there was that sort of kind of camaraderie that comes around that I think is really important. And I think, in summary, as there are more women and as there are more senior women, I think the opportunities to just be available and answer questions and take a beat and answer and be supportive is something that I do on a regular basis. And I'm thrilled that I'm in a position to be able to do that. And then I find some other women that are senior, especially in the CIO roles, doing the same thing. So I think that that's really what it is just to take the minute and be available and be open to be helpful, and to know that it actually does make a difference.
Yeah, I fully agree. And thank you so much. So I know we could talk for hours, but thank you so much for sharing your story and insights. I'll now turn it back over to James Jack to give a preview of our next program.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Claire, and thank you, Rebecca, for today, our latest episode of Founders and Funders. To our viewers, don't forget to check out the Founders and Funders playlist and stay tuned for our future conversations. You can save the playlist to get updates automatically right here on UBS's YouTube channel. For those looking for more information, you should speak with your UBS financial advisor. You can also find more resources from UBS on financial planning and wealth building, as well as resources to support women and business owners by visiting ubs.com/women and ubs.com/business services for the latest from UBS. Thank you so much again for placing your trust with UBS and your financial advisor teams. Be well.